episode 3, Jeanette fills Greg in on Jazz's breakdown in the previous episode, and once she does that, we proceed to the scene with Jazz getting his first bikini wax with friend Jacqueline, and Jacqueline proceeds to tell Jazz that he has to quit his job because his co-workers were outing him and pretty much putting his life at risk. But I believe the real issue is that the female co-workers did not want to share a restroom with a man, but this is just my honest opinion. And then they proceed to start talking about the wax, and Jacqueline tells us that he's jealous of Jazz getting his vajayjay wax, and then proceeds to tell us he can't wait to have his custom vajayjay created. Like, what? We are honestly living in strange times, y'all. Like, it is what it is, alright? Then Jazz tells us that he's preparing for sex with this wax, #gross, and then Jacqueline gets his hairy back waxed. And we get into a conversation about Jacqueline's gender dysphoria, and my honest thought is, why does everything make Jacqueline gender dysphoria like start to have an issue or whatever? First it was the name change from Jojo to Jacqueline, giving him gender dysphoria, that's why he changed it, and now it's the hair that grows on his body that's giving him gender dysphoria. Like, you can't make this stuff up. This makes no sense. Like, it is what it is once again. And then they proceed to talk about Jazz's upcoming date, and even Jacqueline knows that it's a bit weird that Sander is going on a double date with his sister Jazz. And in the next scene, we see Jeanette going to a psychic named Julie, and Julie tells her she needs to take a step back in order for Jazz to figure it out. And as the control freak that Jeanette is, she can't let go. And obviously, I doubt Jeanette will ever let Jazz be. Like, it's not gonna happen. Next thing we see, Jazz prepares for the date with Daron. Jeanette and Jazz go cowboy boots hunting. I mean, not hunting, but shopping. And Jacqueline stops by and they shop and talk. And then before you know it, Jacqueline is thinking about doing frisky modeling. And of course, Jeanette is okay with this. For one, Jacqueline is not her kid, and two, she doesn't completely trust Jazz, you know? Like, she would trust Jacqueline before she ever trusts Jazz, because yeah, that's not her kid and she doesn't have control over Jacqueline. And one thing I've noticed that with a lot of trans people is that they get into like some sort of like sex work or adult entertainment to pay for like their surgeries. I'm like, is that the quick and best option that they have? Which is really sad in my honest opinion. I know it's just modeling, but I just always figure, like, why does somebody have to like take off their clothes in order to get money for like surgery? Like, it's just like doing too much. These people aren't thinking like long-term goals. It's all about like short-term goals. But it is what it is. Next thing I wanted to ask is, why does Jeanette keep reminiscing about Jazz being a kid even while doing his hair for the date? Like, they talk about Jazz's struggles in school when he was younger, like when boys wouldn't hug him but hugged all the girls, and boys didn't want to date him. Like, they didn't want any confusion. That's why they didn't hug you or date you. They didn't want to give you false hope, and they didn't want to give you false dreams into believing that anything would ever transpire between two dudes. Like, it ain't happening. Like, boy, bye. Like, they're not gay. This is why they didn't hug you, Jazz. Like, no. Like, why does Jeanette's mom try to make it seem like it's so out of the norm for dudes not to hug other dudes and not want to date them unless they're gay? Like, bro, it's a no. Jazz hopes Jeanette doesn't track him while he's on the date, but I wouldn't hold my breath, honestly, Jazz, because Jeanette stalks you every waking moment. And then Jazz and Sander head to the date. For some reason, Jazz keeps talking about kissing this stranger that he's about to meet up with, okay? Jazz is nervous because this is the first date in 4 years, of course. And so, Daron and Jazz meet, and they get to talking, and Daron calls Jazz a cowboy, and then Jazz corrects him by saying cowgirl. You know, guys, the jokes just write themselves. Like, okay, like, girl. Poor Jazz. Poor Jazz Jennings. They start dancing and Jazz gets uncomfortable and nervous, Deron picked up on this and tries to make Jazz comfortable with him. And of course, they eventually get done with dancing and then they step outside to talk about, possibly dating. And then Deron wants to kiss Jazz. He's like, "Can I kiss you?"